Do you ever feel like your curriculum planning is chaotic, rushed, and ineffective? Well, you're not alone. But what if I told you there's a 5-step framework that makes planning smoother, faster, and more effective? Hey everyone, welcome to Deep Professional. My name's Alex Gray and I'm currently an international teacher based in Dubai. Now, with nearly 20 years of teaching experience and over a decade in educational leadership, the last 5 years of my career have been about empowering you, fellow educators. I hold a master's degree and an MPQ in leading teaching development, both of which have fueled my passion for fostering excellence in classrooms around the world. Now, through Deep, I'm excited to share proven strategies, insights, and fresh perspectives to help you grow as an educator. So, let's dive in and discover what it means to teach, learn, and think deep. Now, with term 3 on the horizon, this is the perfect time to reset and rethink how we plan. Not just for the next few weeks, but for the year ahead. Here's the thing. Many of us are still stuck in reactive planning. We go week by week or even lesson by lesson trying to stay ahead, but we rarely get the chance to zoom out and plan with clarity. Now, that's where backward planning comes in. It's a powerful concept from the Understanding by Design model by Wiggins and McTighe. The idea? Well, you're going to start with the end in mind and you're going to work backward to build intentional, meaningful learning experiences. Now, step 1 here is about defining the end goal. You need to ask yourself, what do I want students to know, to understand, be able to do by the end of this unit or term? So you can use, like we already do, things like Bloom's taxonomy to elevate your objectives from remembering facts to analysing, evaluating, or even creating. For example, instead of saying students will learn about photosynthesis, we can say something like students will explain how photosynthesis supports ecosystems and design a model to how to show it. Now in step 2, you're going to decide on the assessments first. And once your outcomes are clear, you're going to figure out how students will demonstrate their learning. Will it be a project, an essay, presentation, a debate? The thing here is you're going to design assessments that mirror your goals. So if your focus is on problem solving, don't give students a multiple choice quiz. Give them a real world scenario to solve. And remember, the assessment should drive the instruction. This is the number one thing that most of us skip. And this is actually where the real magic happens. And step 3, plan the learning activities. Now that your goals and assessments are locked in, let's get creative. We're going to build learning activities that directly support the assessment and skill development. So for example, if the end goal is persuasive writing, students might first analyse famous speeches, co-construct success criteria, and engage in peer review before crafting their final piece. And these activities should build momentum, engagement, and readiness, not just fill the calendar. Now step 4, you're going to sequence the lessons logically. Once you've got your building blocks, sequence them from simple to complex using a spiral or scaffolded approach. Don't start with essay writing if students haven't built the vocabulary or critical thinking yet. Think foundation first, complexity later. And for term 3 planning, you've got to map out what needs to be introduced early in term 1 next year and what can wait until deeper understanding is built. And then in step 5, reflect and adjust the plan. And this is the secret weapon of great planning, reflection. After every unit, ask what worked, what didn't, how can I scaffold better next year? Now you can use exit tickets, student surveys, or your own teaching journal. But you need to build the space into your planning for iteration. Next year's version should always be better than the last. I want to give you a real world example. I'm going to apply this framework to a real unit that I've recently taught, which is Year 8 Science, covering photosynthesis, part of the UK national curriculum. To make sense of this now, because last time I went from right to left, as you'll see, this time I'll do it the normal way we'll go through, or it should be backwards plan it. Let's still backwards plan it. So let's put these into 5, so we're going to fit 5 strips in. So there's 1, 2, 3, hopefully this is going to work out all right. 4, amazing, we've got 5, somehow we've got 5. All right, so we're actually going to work backwards in this one. So here is our end goal. So this is what we want students to be able to do by the end of the unit. And I'm going to write this one in. So we want them to be able to explain the process of, and I shorthand photosynthesis by the way, of PS. We want to be able to identify the key reactants and products, and that's my and by the way, and evaluate the impact, see if this fits on. Small writing, it does. Of light, water, and CO2 on plant growth. All right, so a couple of good things in this one there. In terms of when we talked about utilizing Bloom's taxonomy, like I can underline here things like, right, I've got explain that comes into it, which is key. I've got to be able to identify things which are key. I need to evaluate, that's also in there. So there are some of these good command terms that are coming into it. And obviously there's the science part. So we've got process of photosynthesis, reactants and products, and obviously the impact. So a combination of, let's say, depth, breadth of knowledge, connecting that to the science of photosynthesis. So that's my first point from there. Now, step number 2, you can remember, is about the assessments. So again, these are just ideas of assessments that we can be utilizing for this. So I want to have things like quick quizzes. Okay, I always struggle with spelling this. So that could be on like vocab, but it could be just sort of general retrieval. But we have those quick quizzes within there as well. What else did we want to bring in? Let's say about labeling diagrams. Spacing is not great here, so I do apologize. That's label diagrams. Let's say we might do things like concept maps. Okay, so we've got those ones in there. Now, if you haven't guessed it, those are formative assessments, which means that these ones here are going to be my summative assessments. So summatives, it's science-based, so we're going to design, plant growth investigation, so to move from that. And as always with this, we will have our final topic. Final topic assessment. We'll go from there. Right, step 3 is then about engaging learning activities. Some sort of stop motion task. Definitely going to have the practical within there of a leaf. Case studies. Real world examples. Case studies, so that would be on things like, so some real world examples there tied into obviously the UAE where we live. Depends where you are. You could obviously fit those in. Vertical farming is a good one anyway, but we have some UAE connections there. Perfect. Right. We move on to number 4. A logical sequence of lessons is what we want from this. So first one, students cover that in year 7. This ties into this idea of spiral, by the way. So I know what we've done in year 7, and then we can obviously layer, get more complex as we move up to this one as well. Define, I'm using C. Actually, the word I want to use is visualize. Just define and visualize. Process. Lesson number 3 would be to investigate factors affecting photosynthesis. All right. Number 4, let's go with a real world context. So it gives us a nice chance to apply what we've learned to a real world scenario. And then lastly is our summative assessment preparation. So logical flow of lessons, working backwards. And the last part that comes into this then is just going to be the reflect and adjust. So within this, you might have, so the first thing we're going to have is we're going to have mid-unit check, okay? And we're going to go with clear. That will allow us to see what we've taught, how we've taught it. Are students understanding it? Are they struggling with it? So mid-unit check is always good. All right, secondly, we're going to have our exit tickets after lessons 2 and 4, which is define and visualize the process of photosynthesis, and then the real world applications. So that could be in about vertical farming or desert plant applications. And then obviously our end of unit. So that could be students' performance in the test, areas they've struggled with based on this information. So we have got, moving backwards, but step 1, and I've done it to really iterate this in terms of where we plan from, in that we've got obviously our end goals and all the way through to how we're going to assess our students, activities we want them to be able to do which are connected to this, the flow of the lessons, and then within that, where are we going to sort of stop to reflect on and the ways in which we're going to do it. Hopefully you can see from this that every lesson has and serves a purpose, and students can also feel that through as well. So here's my big takeaway. Curriculum planning isn't about necessarily doing more, but it's about how can we do it smarter? And that's just one example. And I'm not saying to you, hey, this is the way you should do it, because there are lots of different ways. And over the course of these next few videos, I'm going to give you some examples of different ways you can go about planning your curriculum, as well as different ways you can go about planning lessons. But that is just one example of how you can use 5-step backward planning framework to give you structure, intention, and clarity. Now it's your turn. Which of these 5 steps do you struggle with the most? Let me know in the comments, and I'd love to know if our community would be able to offer any help and support. If you want this in a document format, there is a free printable version for you. Go into the show notes, you will find the link. It's all yours. As always, if you have found this video valuable and enjoyed it, please hit that like button for me. And if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, thank you ever so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I think you're also going to find this one useful about how you can use AI to enhance your lesson planning as well. Until next time, guys, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.